cannot stand the amount of money that's coming in the houses that are building. They always buy these SUVs and very fancy motorcycles, and they park them outside their house. So that becomes like a big bone of contention. So then these upper castes started to make this list of names, and then that itself is an informal economy because the police pays them to inform on them. So everyone gets paid from this. The police takes bribes. The politician was funding his election campaign from the scam money. People were starting fake toll plazas, fake police stations. Some 200 people had fake married each other. Couples like agreeing that they were both on both sides family coming together to scam the government. And I found a whole political economy of that region now depends on this scam. So getting an OTP from someone today is one of the easiest things that we for us. They would sit in an agency in Gurgaon. It was a proper sort of white collar job for the women, and they would call these men bakras. And Ruhi would say, you just drag out the conversation. Send him a photo, but he can't open the photo. To open the photo, he has to buy credit from the app. So the whole experience of dating, love, romance digitally was just, like a transaction. I was conflicted. Because it is in some sense a Slumdog Millionaire story.
Welcome to NDTV Loves Books, and today we're going to talk to Snigdha Poonam about her second book, Scamlands, Inside the Asian Empire of Fraud That Preys on the World. And this book, Snigdha, was a trip. I have to tell you, it takes you all over the world. Firstly, you start from a cafe in the United States, and then you go to Cambodia, you go to Jamtara in Jharkhand, you go to Kumbakonam as well. And it's really incredible because I think all of us have experienced some form of online scamming, somebody reaching out to us. Some of us are smart and we avoid it. Some of us fall prey to it. We know somebody else who's been scammed. But this book really took you to all the background of it, the seamier side, the whole sort of intricate network that, that is behind these scams, and also the fact, which I never realized, the trafficking of people and entrapment and slavery, in a sense, like slavery scamming people. It's crazy. So first and foremost, you're a journalist. So obviously, a lot of times as journalists, we come across stories and we think there's something more to it. And is that how it was for you? If you could tell, how you thought of writing a whole book on this scamming industry?
I read newspapers, I still do. And I used to subscribe to 2 or 3, one English, one Hindi. If I was in Jharkhand, where my home state, I would also read the regional dailies. And I urge you to read any newspaper in any language and just count the number of stories that are sort of centered on fraud of one kind or the other. I mean, the digital ones we know. The KBC scam and the KYC scam and the digital arrest and the fake courier and so on and so forth. But I was also finding so many completely wild and ingenious ways in which people were defrauding each other, defrauding governments, defrauding corporations, like starting at the grassroots. So I remember I used to clip those articles and keep them in my study in an actual trunk. And within days, months, like the trunk was overflowing, my room was overflowing with these clips. And the wilder ones I used to even note down in my notebook. And it would be like people were starting fake toll plazas, fake police stations. In the villages, I remember there was a story where the government holds these mass marriage functions where everyone gets paid rupees 2 lakh or 3 lakh to get married as a gift from the government. And some 200 people had fake married each other. Couples like agreeing that they were both on both sides family coming together to scam the government. And it was happening everywhere. As a journalist, I would go to places I was reporting on welfare, and I was finding that in each of our schemes, there's always been corruption. If there's a scheme for farmers, we always know that the government will take money, the contractor will take money, the bureaucrats will take money. Now I was finding that each household was coming up with ways where if one person was entitled to a scheme, one farmer was entitled to a scheme, 5 people were taking it. They were not farmers. They didn't even exist. So inventing sort of ways in which they could also steal, money from this fund. So I just had a sense, again, like as a journalist, just being in this landscape, that something was changing. I write in the book that our national story was taking a new dimension. When I have, most of us have grown up on the narrative that the powerful, the corruption is kind of a preserve of the powerful in India. The people in power, they steal from the poor because the poor do not know their rights. They cannot fight back. But when I started traveling in the same country as a reporter, I found something different. I found that, because of a number of reasons that I'm happy to go into, now we also had a kind of grassroots fraud in which the people that had traditionally, sort of for generations, for centuries in some sense, had been at the bottom, also could use the same infrastructure.
Right, and you're referring to Jamtara, of course, and Jharkhand, where you have this whole industry. And what I also found very interesting was the caste sort of connection of these camps, whether in Jamtara it's the scheduled caste or the backwards who are now, getting other people into this scam of calling up people and frauding them. And we'll talk, and also the whole digital revolution, how that has helped this scam. And then, of course, Kumbakonam, we have the helicopter brothers who really use their Brahmin identity to scam all the Brahmins in the area. So that has also been quite fascinating. Tell us about Jamtara first.
It is fascinating because I thought this would be a story about, I wanted to always write a true crime book. And I thought that this is, if we wanted to look at Indian society through the lens of crime, I just thought fraud makes sense because it is so, the landscape is so vast and the stories are everywhere. I wouldn't have to keep looking for a serial killer to tell the story of what's happening in India. And the first place I went to was Jamtara. It's close to where I grew up.
Yes.
I grew up in Devghar in Santal Pargana, and we all now know what Jamtara is, where it is, what the people do, and yet very few of us have been in the place. And when I say in the place, I don't even mean Jamtara, because when I was at the cyber police station in Delhi, that kind of looks at data nationwide of these digital scams. They were saying Jamtara is not where we are finding these phone trails and these bank accounts. It's now expanding across a very wide region, a region where I grew up. And so when you go there, you can already see that what started in 2010, 2011 as like this wacky, weird thing that 10 or 15 people did
just give a little hint of about,
Everyone, I found a whole political economy of that region now depends on this scam. So not just your scamsters who are making us those calls saying, "Aapke bank account, aapke bank se phone kar raha hu, aapke credit card company se phone kar raha hu," but every other person that I've met in these villages is walking around. Like I would meet someone and I'm like, "What do you do?" And he runs these local sort of customer care centers where his job is only to open fake bank accounts so that when someone takes money from a Jamtara scamster steals from us, the money doesn't go to his bank account. I'll meet someone else and he's a delivery person from Amazon, because when the scamster, again, when they are in our bank accounts, they don't even want to send the money to anyone's bank account because the money trails. So they'll make an account in our name on Amazon using all our bank details, then send an OTP to our phones. And the easiest thing, as Jitu tells me, is my primary sort of character from there. He says, getting an OTP from someone today is one of the easiest things that for us. So then we give them the OTP. They've bought everything, remote control curtains, entertainment systems, the newest Alexas, and then they'll send it all to a fake address in their village.
These people have earned generational wealth in the sense they've put up big houses in this area, and you speak to some of the upper caste and they're like, "Dekho, these houses have come up." So I can almost understand why they would get into it, because if they did a run-of-the-mill job, they're not going to be building these big houses.
No, they don't. So you're right in that, even though the starting point is kind of always very, very bleak. Sister has to be married, father has run into debt. Once they go in, within 2 months, 3 months, the kind of money that they're able to make. As Jitu tells me, what is rupees 10,000 for me? It is as I can make it as easily as just saying it out. If I wasn't sitting here talking to you, I would be on a call making that much from a single thing. And it was like, so, and what is 1 crore? 10 good days in a month. That is 1 crore for us. And we're talking at the level of local economy. And one of the reasons that they are brought down, that they go to jail, as you hinted at, is local jealousies from people of their own network, but also often like people from a higher caste who get who just cannot stand the amount of money that's coming in the houses that are building. They always buy these SUVs and very fancy motorcycles, and they park them outside their house. So that becomes like a big bone of contention. So then these upper castes started to make this list of names, and then that itself is an informal economy because the police pays them to inform on them. So everyone gets paid from this. The police takes bribes. The politician was funding his election campaign from the scam money. So it's like the incentive for them to leave is
so the other
non-existent.
Absolutely. And the other scam or the network that you talk about is how you also built a CV or wrote out a CV and you applied for this job. And you're right, because very often in papers we see these jobs, multinational company, English speaking, wanted. And I always wonder, so it seems like there are a lot of jobs, but you went into that and realized the job turned out to be scamming. Tell us about that. And there's this sentence that you had where you speak to the other people and they're like, and you're saying scamming was the first time they felt valued in the labor market. And this was quite a shocking, sort of observation that you made. So these people, these poor young educated people not getting jobs, finally they get a job at a call center, which is just scamming people. Tell us about that.
Well, I wanted to show it is not just, illiterate poor people in a place like Jamtara. It's like, I call it an empire because it operates like an empire, and it's drawing in people from so many backgrounds, so many classes, so many, people with so many different kinds of skills. So you also have young graduates who, it's not a surprise to us that when they finish their degrees in these provincial places, they come to Delhi, as I did, as so many of us do. They're looking for a job. Mostly they'll see these advertisements saying call center job, MNC, 25,000 rupees in a month, and they'll go immediately. There's a number to call. Once they go to these places, they don't waste any time. They just give you a script, and then they give you a 5 or 6 mobile phones, and they give you their target. They'll give you a list of like victims that you have to call, and for each call, you are trying to scam someone. You are trying to call someone in the United States saying you've not paid your taxes, and so you have to put everything in the government bank account. Or you're calling someone in India and saying there's you can. Do you have a job? Do you need a job? We have a job. And then someone who did not have a job to begin with lands in a call center and so call someone else, offer a job, and then scam them out of the money that already they do not have. So it was all a sort of a cruel system, and then it moved me, because then it's not just like an industry or an economy, but you're also like taking something from these young people that doesn't get replaced, which is a sense of empathy and a sense of guilt, and like their moral thresholds were getting lower and lower even as even for the time that I was following them.
Right, and so that was one way of scamming, and you also went into it and spoke to several people. The other one was the dating app or the chatting app, or whatever you call it, L'amour, and that was also quite an eye opener. And it showed the sort of loneliness there is, perhaps, that there's so many young people who will be on this app chatting with a woman, desperately buying those digital diamonds so that they get more time to chat with the woman. And these women, they're calling them marks, and they're literally like chatting with so many. And one has heard of these sort of things. Again, in the newspaper, you see one article, some poor young man has died by suicide because he was caught up in something, or he spent too much money in something, and did not realize how people are there just targeting them. It's almost like these it's so easy to fall for something like this, isn't it? These poor men, they have, but at the same time, you also speak about how there are some platforms where they're calling it out as well. So it's a lot going on.
Each of these scams is also a deeply psychological scheme, because they understand us. They know that we want one of these many things. Either we will fall for fear, or we'll fall for, because we're lonely, and we'll fall for a promise of love or marriage or sex. We will,
or just somebody who's asking, did you eat something today? How are you? Like,
yes,
that's what you speak about.
Yes, absolutely. And the larger sort of point behind that story was to say that, look, if we have multitudes virtually of people, young people mostly, who don't have any legit opportunities, and their moral boundaries are already quite low. It also means that now that makes us one of the most sort of vast and skilled labor pools for any scam enterprise anywhere in the world to hire our people. And I could see that it started to happen, because these like Chinese so digital companies in China were making what they call dating apps fake dating apps for the tier 2 market. They were saying, Tinder and Bumble are not actually servicing your market. They're servicing 5% of the market.
That was the other fascinating thing. You said we'll never see this L'amour. It's targeted at a certain type of population.
L'amour was not made so that we will ever come across it. It was made for someone in Saharanpur who's giving government exams, and at night he just sits in his sits in his one room rented house, and he's just searching frantically on the internet for someone to chat to. And so the girls that were being hired by this dating app, and I tried to be one of them, were being paid by the second, by the minute to talk to these men. But our whole brief was to keep dragging out the call so that before you can even ask me what my name is, the call would get cut, and they would just to keep buying these VIP packages, these diamonds, these and roses on the app. Everything was then translated into $1 salary for me after the majority of the money went to China, to my employers. So it was just again like a very sort of brutal system in which the men were rarely realized that the women that they were talking to were paid to talk to them or were paid to scam them. So they would sit in an agency in Gurgaon. It was a proper sort of white collar job for the women, and they would call these men bakras. And Ruhi would say, you just drag out the conversation. Send him a photo, but he can't open the photo. To open the photo, he has to buy credit from the app. So the whole experience of dating, love, romance digitally was just like a transaction.
Because you got quite friendly with some of the people that you were, as you were tracking this entire story, and were you conflicted about maybe humanizing them? There's the Rana Pratap, there's Ruhi, there are various characters along the way in the book and the various scams. What were your thoughts on that? Were you conflicted in any way? Because it makes it more interesting for us to read, of course.
I was conflicted. Because it is in some sense a Slumdog Millionaire story, in that you have someone for whom like this is the only way out of the circumstances. I talk about the KBC scammers. They are people who don't have the time to mug up textbooks and actually go to a KBC and get on the hot seat. So they said let us become the hot seat. So they invent a KBC scam, and in so many of the cases, the ingenuity sort of took my breath away. In the kinds of ways in which they were forcing their way into the labor market, into an economy that shuts them out, that will do anything to, and then to keep them out. And so I sometimes you did feel something for those people, but I always was grounded by the fact that for each of these scams, there was a victim. And the victim's life would be completely destroyed emotionally, financially. They would lose their sense of self-worth, their belief in the world. And I could see that. And so that's why I took the decision to to sort of draft some of those, to sort of build some of the stories around the victims, because they're also not always just sad and desolate figures. Some of them, as you'll see, they take it upon themselves to chase down their scammers, to like shut down the entire
the lady from Singapore, yes,
shut down the entire industry from the inside, and they'll do anything to sort of to fight for justice. And so that is also a thrilling story, and that too I write in a way that makes you feel for them, and that balance like just became really interesting for me to switch between in the narrative.
It did seem like whack-a-mole. You say that one call center shuts down and those people just go and they join the next one, the next scamming call center. And literally, it's like that similarly in Cambodia as well. One place shuts down, those people just go to another place as well. So let's talk about how you've taken us on this trip from the United States to Cambodia, because it begins from the United States of these women, in their midlife getting scammed. A innocuous message landing up, it's a mistake, and then suddenly they start chatting. It also spoke about the loneliness, perhaps, of these people. So tell us about the pig butchering scam, as you call it, the PBS.
The PBS. The story is the same. It's just one story from beginning to end, which is a story of this labor pool, the multitudes, call them 1 million people, more than 1 million people, who today in India will very easily walk into a scam. And that will be the way that they earn their income, and then they sort of build their lives. They sort of even identify themselves as scamsters. And so what happens? They can work in Jamtara, they can work in Assam, they can work in Gurgaon like Ruhi does, but they can also be employed by someone who's making a fake dating app in China. They can also very easily be trafficked into what have become these entire cities in Southeast Asia that are built to scam people all over the world.
Yeah, I had no idea. If you would tell me today that a graduate person with a passport, with, fully, a person who can move around in the world, and they can be trafficked, I would not have believed it. But the way you describe it, that they're offered a job, it's in Cambodia, they land up there, they meet the person, and then their passports are taken away, they're put inside this building. I couldn't believe it. It's crazy.
I couldn't believe it. And you will see in the story that I don't know where this trail is leading me. And when a trail leads me to Cambodia, I'm scared because I feel like I've landed into a world now where it's a world of unambiguous criminality. This is not Jamtara. This is not where I can speak the local dialect and have chai with the scamsters and they'll tell me their life story and their fights with their and their wives. This is a world in which you don't know who the people are at the top. The moment that these young people land up in these places, just holding a job offer, they are taken in these darkened SUVs. They are driven into these compounds. One compound has as many as 20 sort of scam centers, like multi-stories. Think of Bombay or New York. This is what the buildings look like. One compound has 20, maybe 40. And each floor is pulling out a different scam. And so these guys just have to show up, take their bunk bed. They're given their script for the whole week. They're told what their shift timing is, and if they don't show up, they will be beaten, they'll be tortured, they'll be electrocuted, they'll be put in solitary confinement, they'll be starved. So their option is either to scam or just maybe starve or die, and until they're treated like slaves, such that they don't know that they've been bought from the recruiter for $7,000, $8,000, $9,000. So until they make that money and give it back to their new owners, these compounds, they cannot leave. By the time a month passes, 2 months passes, they could already see that they're making money. So I was talking to this guy who's from Balia in UP, and he said he wanted to be rescued, and I helped him be rescued. And later I found out that he went back to another scam compound in Myanmar.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Some of them embraced it. They said, okay, because you also have entertainment in these compounds. You have karaoke bars in restaurants or something like that. And it's
massage
and
parlor.
One girl who came away, she says they send me pictures of the parties they're having and they're having a good life. So they embrace this life of scamming people and say, okay, at least we're making money.
Some of them do. A lot of the Indians did, and then they would tell me, because they'll be on the phone with me, and they would say something like, and they would talk more than talking to me. They would talk amongst themselves. So someone wants to leave and they're trying to call Indian embassy. Someone else would say in their own room or in their own network, are you sure that you want to leave? Ghar jaake kya karoge? What will you do when you? And then even their managers, the Chinese people who run these scams, would also keep sending them these messages throughout the day saying, when you want to go home, don't you want to go as a big person? Do you want to go back to the same status where you came from? So they also know where these people are coming from. And then they're also coming from India, but also Uganda and Ethiopia. So they're also seeing that in all of these places now, there's also a story of global inequality, but you see that from a city like Sinukville. Where you can see that these young people from India, Ethiopia, Sri Lanka, Uganda, they're all in these bunk beds, and they are calling people in the Western world, Australia and Canada and New Zealand, and pretending to be Russian women and trying to trap them, offering romance, offering love, a life of companionship.
And then an investment opportunity in Bitcoins or some sort of...
Yes.
Final question. I mean, what would your message be to those who will read your book or are watching this interview regarding this digital world, this scamming world that you have now got to know so closely?
Well, my biggest insight, and this is what I want most readers to take away from this, is that it's not just a technological problem. It's just not, scams are not like a law and crime. It's not an economic crime. It's not cannot be fixed by law and order alone. So you will have to understand also the ways in which our society has changed in the last 15, 20, 30, 50 years, and the cracks that have developed, the sense of
restriction and grievances, the desperation for a job, for income.
Like simply, what does it take a young woman to even get into the labor market versus a man? That kind of inequality, we see numbers, but you have to meet a young woman who's trying to break into understand, and then Ruhi is one of them, right? So I mean, if she's not finding a job in the legit market, she starts to work for a fake dating app run by someone in China, and so that just shows you that they will make choices based on the, the opportunities that we are giving or not giving them.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Snigdha. And really, this book has been quite the eye-opener. Congratulations. And yes, you must get, if you want to know more about it, do read Scamlands. You'll know about all these various scams that we've been talking about. Thank you so much.
Thank you.